Hello everyone, I'm Chester44 and welcome to this Let's Play Blades of Avernum. Last episode, we did some more hunting around and managed to find out that, not Liam, I forgot his name already. What was his name? Does it say his name here? Tovus. Yeah, Tovus is, he's a vampire. And he was in love with Lorena, the person we were sent to find. No idea what happened to the other two people, though. Right now, though, we're going to look around. As you enter this room, you shudder. There's a coffin against the far wall, but that would make Tovus as a vampire? This isn't good. Oh, yes! Like we didn't know before. From everything else we were told. It was not obvious. Please. You flick through the book. It is another journal, a non-magical one. Most of it looks uninteresting, except for an entry just a few pages from the beginning, and in particular this passage. The portal has been set up and tested. Getting to the tower should now be possible even in emergencies, without any effort. In order to keep the fools in Greenleaf from finding it, I hid it in the hills to the south of the lake. It is directly south of a huge white boulder. I even managed to power it without the usual crystals by... After that, it waffles a little about power conduits and such. Still, the fact there is a direct way to Tovus' tower is promising. Roxy is standing by the door waiting for you to have a look around. Find anything? Can you tell us more about yourself? Now? We have better things to be doing. We'll do all the small talk you could hope for later. We think Tovus is a vampire. You tell Roxy about the coffin and she grows more pale. That makes sense. From what I've heard, he never went out during the day. Oh, this is terrible. Keep looking for something that might help us find him. Oh, and keep this quiet, okay? We don't want to start a panic. Well, we did find a way to reach Tovus. Roxy smiles. Good work. Now I'm going to go and see Mare Stone. Follow me up when you're finished here. She turns to go, but then stops. Oh, and don't tell anybody about this. It's best nobody knows yet. Agreed. Let's not start a panic. Yes, back up we go. Roxy is waiting for you when you emerge from the trapdoor. She forces a smile. Right, we need to see Mare Stone. And remember, don't breathe a word of this to anybody. You nod and go to Mare Stone's office together. You and Roxy tell Mare Stone what just happened. He grows paler with each word. Well, this is a... He looks at both you and Roxy keenly. You'll have to go to his tower and find Lorena. There's a long pause. Eventually, Roxy nods. Okay, you guys go on ahead. I'm going to talk to Mare Stone. They both fall silent and wait for you to leave. You guys go on ahead. I'll catch up in a minute. Mare Stone is staring into the distance when you return. You cough gently to get his attention. We found some poisonous goo in Tovus' shop. You tell the mayor all about the vat you found and how you couldn't do anything about it. He nods and writes something on a scrap of paper. Thank you. I'll get somebody to deal with it as soon as possible. No, now isn't the time for chat. Go find my daughter for me, please. Roxy will follow. Of course. I just want to sell something. 2 somethings. Alright, where the door? Why not? It provides a minor bit of defense. Alright, the hills south of the lake. It said the hills south of the lake, didn't it? Or is it here? Could be the other side of this door. Oh. That's just, another coffin of his. So he had 2. Okay. Said the hills south of the lake. There's only a few hills. That is what it said, isn't it? Light place. Could have sworn that's what it said. You flick through the book again but find nothing of value. Yeah, we got the information, so... No, I want to stay. Oh, I didn't want to go in there. Oh, that's the soldiers. Stop that! I don't want to go into that hill. It's not here. Hold on, I'm gonna reload. I feel like it may have bugged. Okay, I found the information. It's directly south of a huge white boulder. The hill is south of the lake. This must be it. Okay. There we are. Okay. You finally reach the end of this mountainous pass. In front of you, before the sheer cliff wall, is a raised platform. Tall stones have been placed in a circle upon it, with elaborate runes seared into the ground between them. The air up here crackles. This must be the teleportal device that the book under Greenleaf mentioned. Presumably, all you have to do is walk into it. Other than the portal, there's nothing up here but dust and the bleached bones of small animals. It is completely and eerily silent, a far cry from the warmth and vibrance of the valley below. Well, it is not what I expected, but then again, what I expected was something that pretty much was not likely to happen. The real confusing thing is the whole thing about the, what was with that start, with that person who was doing the paintings? Alright, let's take this portal. You approach the center of the raised platform nervously. The air is crackling keenly with magical energy. As you draw near, small balls of light begin forming over the central rune. Do you step closer? Yeah. You step onto the central rune. For a moment, nothing seems to happen. Then suddenly you feel the energy in the air envelop you, pour over you, into you. You begin to feel faint, as if you aren't completely solid, but in fact just an extension of the energy. Then you pass out. When you awake, you are in a completely different place. From the looks of things, you are high up in the mountains. The sun is strong up here, and the lilacs seem in full bloom. However, you feel a little uncomfortable, as if you are being watched. Didn't mean to walk out, but I do see where we are. You stumble to the top of this hill, still slightly dazed after your journey through this mountain clearing and into a wide open space that looks like something straight out of a fairy tale. The large lilacs that thrive in the valley are in full bloom up here, despite the tall precipices all around. At the far end, a large tower rises up, scraping the clouds with its peak. As you take a few steps forward, you suddenly stop. The flowers are pretty and as fragrant as ever, but even their sweet aroma cannot hide the unnerving stench of death that is carried on the breeze. You have clearly come to the right place. You march a short distance. Suddenly you see somebody ahead. You shield your eyes and look. You see the object of your quest. Lorena. She is kneeling outside a huge tower to the west, picking flowers. Then she stands up and goes inside. At last you have found her. All you have to do now is take her back to Mare Stone. All easier said than done. You finally reach your destination. Tovis's lair. It is a formidable-looking structure, both imposing and terrifying, and you balk at the thought of going inside. You have a quick look around the small courtyard for signs of Lorena, but see none. In fact, you see no signs of human life at all. The air is still, heavy with the scent of lilacs, and everything is silent, except for a gentle breeze stirring the nearby trees. Looks like you have no choice but to press on into this cathedral of death. Not really going to be able to explore outside the tower. pillar has but one letter carved onto it, a grandly etched T. All cloaks. I do like that style of cloak. That's a cloak. That's a nice fur. Running around the outside before I go into anything. Boots. Actually, we do need boots. Okay. Let's not go in there yet. Let's look around the outer doors here. You enter this smallish chapel. It is an altogether more sinister place than you imagined a room of worship could be. Because of the obvious lack of natural light, everything is bathed in a flickering orange glow, and the air is hung with smoke. Also, there are no chairs, just a single prayer mat, where you assume Tovis kneels and prays. The idea of a beast as evil as Tovis praying is, however, completely alien to you. As you approach the mat, you get an overwhelming feeling of something unpleasant. It is a mix of heart-wrenching solitude and guilt and hatred and fear and more besides. Needless to say, you don't hang around the mat long enough to experience the feeling for very long. This altar is just a huge slab of rock that has been smoothed down. It has no magical properties whatsoever. It must just be a focusing object and not a shrine. The fact there's rope there is concerning. Nothing in here. You enter the small room and are assaulted by dust and small bits of stone. They cling to your clothes and hair, disturbed as they were by the sudden draft of air you created as you entered. The room appears to be some kind of workshop. Hammers and scalpels litter the floor, and huge chunks of rock are everywhere. You hold your breath as you enter. The air is thick with dust. You take a closer look at the statue. Even in its unfinished state, you can clearly see what it's meant to be, and can also recognize that it is being carved by the same hand that made all the statues in the tower. You reach out and run your hand along it, childishly half expecting it to move as you do so. It is so smooth, so perfect, that it could almost be the real thing. So he was an artist. You approach this door and stop, puzzled. You have to blink twice to make sure you didn't miss it. The door has no handle. Shrugging, you push against it, thinking it'll just give way. No such luck. In fact, there doesn't seem to be any visible way to get into the room beyond. Maybe there's a hidden switch nearby or something. Keep out, please. Okay, then. This room is filthy. It appears as though everything and anything has been thrown in here and given about 20 years to gather dust. Looking around, there doesn't seem to be anything of value in here, but you'd have to give up a whole week to check for sure. I mean, I'll check the barrels and everything. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's anything. Moving on. To upper level and roof. You don't have a key? You're gonna need to wait for that. You open this door and enter a small, walled-off garden. This is by far the most beautiful place in the tower. In fact, it could almost be a description from a fairy story. The grass is lush and verdant underfoot, the lilacs bloom majestically, and the tall trees around you soar upwards with idle grace. It is the ceiling, though, that truly stuns you. The ceiling of this garden has been enchanted to show the night sky. It is almost as if you were outside. The moon, you can't be sure if it's real or not, is waxing before your eyes, and the fiery glow of Venus is visible. Reluctantly, you pull yourself away from the heavens. You have a job to do. The spirit is walking about, or rather floating about, an inch or two off the grass. It looks at you as you approach and begins speaking in an altogether more feminine tone than the other shades you have met so far. Come in, come closer. It's been so long since I spoke to anybody alive. And no, I'm not about to jump you, claws bared. it says, echoing a thought you had just 2 seconds before. Do you have a name? No, the shade answers pensively. None of us have. We must have done once, but that was centuries ago, before we were trapped here. Now a name would just remind us that we once lived, that we once belonged. Such things would only be torture. We're fortunate in that way, at least. You are trapped here. That is correct. Once we were living, breathing creatures. We did terrible things, I do not remember what, but we were punished for them. We are cursed. Cursed to serve the master of the tower, and cursed to never leave. There are other things too, but the shade in the library knows much more than me. He at least remembered our history, even if it is just facts to him now. Who is the master? It changes. It once was Lord Monkton, then Alexandra, but now it is Master Tovus. He is probably the wisest master we have had, but he too will leave one day. The library ghost will know much more, but even he cannot remember all. Oh, and Master Tovus is expecting you. We can hear his thoughts. He is impatient to speak with you. The ghost is still here, wistfully looking at the garden. It moves to pick up a lilac, but passes right through it. Sighing, it turns to you. I heard your thoughts, and yes, it is heart-wrenching to be dead. That is not why you are here. Speak, please. If you can read minds, where is Lorena? We are bound not to say. Master Tovus is most clear on this point. Tell them only what needs to be told, and this is not one of the things. We are sorry. What are you doing? What are any of us doing? Existing. But if you mean what is my purpose here, it is the same as all the spirits. We are to serve the master of the tower, whomsoever that might be. You can read my mind. The spirit nods gravely. Oh yes, that is but one part of our torture, our punishment. We see all, hear all. That way we feel the agony of others, the fearful thoughts they have upon seeing us. It is all quite cruel, but that is how we were meant to be, miserable as well as trapped. Interesting. Dungeons and lower floors. Can't go down there. Yet. You enter this foul-smelling room and immediately see its purpose. It's an apothecary of some description. 2 cauldrons sit bubbling nearby. Somebody's been in here recently, although you can't tell why. The liquid in this cauldron is bubbling fiercely as you approach, and the fumes it is taking off are less than pleasant. You feel woozy just standing near them. There's a ladle inside, and you're sure nobody would know if you had a sip. However, the contents might be particularly dangerous. You have no idea what's being made here. Leave it alone. Same thing. Poison. Not taking the poison. Let me save before I try those. I'm curious. Alright, let's try this one on the left. Put the ladle and take a sip. Unfortunately, the liquid being brewed was either deliberately poisonous, or else it's not quite had long enough to turn safe yet. You quickly pass out. You never wake up. Kind of expected that. I imagine the other one will be the same, but let's try it anyway. Reloading. Alright, let's try the red one. Same thing. Should have expected that. Okay, reloading once again. Right, I had a feeling that was a stupid idea, but I did it anyway. You enter this room and immediately wonder what it's for. It is completely devoid of features, apart from 4 tall pillars stretching upwards and 3 paintings on the far wall. The pictures are heavy with dust, as is everything else in here. Tovus must not frequent this room very often. You carefully wipe away some of the dust covering the picture in order to see what it is. After a while, a picture is visible underneath the remaining dirt. You step back and look and see a fairly plain painting of what looks like the veil. Everything looks very drab, although you aren't sure if that's the dust or the style of the painting. You step back and look and see a fairly plain painting of a young man in armor. Everything looks very drab, although you aren't sure if that's the dust or the style. You step back and look and see a fairly plain painting of some lilies. Everything looks very drab, again, dust or style. The shade looks at you as you approach and whispers, "See the master, the master." You make to speak, but it simply shakes its head, and you sense that it doesn't want to talk to you anymore. Okay, gloves, yes, and the better cloak. Towels and... okay, it's like a washroom or something, I guess. You enter this room. It appears as though this part of the tower was built to house visitors whilst they stayed here. Clearly this place wasn't always as remote as it is now. Looking around, you see the rooms are very dusty. It's almost as if nobody has been in here for years. Somehow, I imagine that is the case. It appears to be... Oh, wait! You open this door warily, fully expecting Tovis to leap out at you, fangs bared. Fortunately, this doesn't happen, although the true contents of this room are only slightly more comforting. Half a dozen coffins, all closed, lie along the outer walls. Bracing yourself, you peer at one. The nameplate, however, is blank. Looks like they haven't been used yet. Yeah, let's leave them closed. It seems to be everything, so the only place to go left is here. You step into the central hall and freeze. Standing guard at the doors opposite are a pair of ghosts. You finger your weapons, not entirely sure whether or not they'll have an effect or pass right through the beings. Then one of them shakes its head and begins speaking. They won't work, so put them away. You pause and frown. Your weapons. You were wondering whether or not they'd hurt us. They wouldn't. Oh, and yes, we do know where the Master is. The Master? It must mean Tovis. Yes, we mean Tovis, and we don't like being called it. Anyway, he's waiting, so go. And with that, they clam up. Weird. They must have some kind of telepathic skill. And they also said Tovis was waiting for you. You dearly hope he will be as accommodating as he was before. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. This sign has been sanded smooth. You open these doors and find the tower's dining room. The place was designed to be a grand hall with tapestries and paintings to awe the guests. However, the room now is just cold and unwelcoming in a very melancholy way. There's just one place set now, a simple clay bowl at the head table. Since it cannot be for Tovis, this must be where Lorena eats. You approach the cooking end of the dining hall. Everything here is dusty and unused. The oven and cauldron are empty and the cooler box is bare. There's been no cooking here for some time. Tovis must get the food he, or his guests, need elsewhere. Oh, there's a mop there. I didn't even see. You throw open these grand wooden doors and peer into the darkened room. You can make out the tall, looming shapes of bookcases, and the air has a whiff of ink and musty paper. This must be the library, no doubt a place Tovis spends much of his time. You dearly hope he isn't here at the moment. Well, I mean, he's waiting for us, so he's probably in the main hall. And that spirit in the garden did happen to say, that must be the library spirit. Well, we can't go in there. And there are a lot of bookcases here. I mean, I doubt there's anything on any of these, but I'm checking anyway, damn it. Oh, that's it. Alright. This spirit seems to be meandering around the library without purpose. As you approach, it turns to you and says mournfully, "The living. What is it like? I remember much, but not what it was like to hold. What is it like?" You pause. You've never really given it much thought. The shade nods. "Not many do. Sorry, can I help you? I know much about the history of the tower, although I cannot keep you long. The Master wishes to see you." The Master wishes to see us. Yes, Master Tovis is keen to see you again. He should be nearby. His thoughts are very clear. Yes, he is near. Do not let me keep you. What is your job here? The shade pauses for a second before answering. I am the history. The Master asks me to speak of the past. I know much, and that interests him. In a wider sense, of course, I do whatever the Master says, like all of us. We have no choice in this, and we cannot remember what it was like before this, so we do it without resentment. Tell us more about the tower. The shade nods. Yes, that is what I know about. That is what I remember. Much is forgotten, but I will help if I can. I remember how we got here, and a little about our masters, And of course I know of Master Tovis. What do you wish to know? Why are you here? What do you do here? We are here because we cannot leave. It was a long story, but much has been forgotten in the centuries since it happened. I will, however, do my best to explain. Once in the distant past, the spirits trapped in this tower lived in the valley below. At that time, the tower was still connected to the land. The chasm to the south came much, much later. Anyway, I digress. We were adventurers on a mission to rescue a princess from the master of the tower, a mage named Lord Monkton. We managed to penetrate the gates and stormed the place, but he was lying in wait for us. He smote us down and cursed us. Our punishment for trying to kill him was to spend eternity serving the master of the tower, whomsoever it should be. Years passed, and Lord Monkton died. The tower fell to ruin, and still we waited, unable to leave. Then a young woman came, Alexandra. She moved in, and it was she who destroyed the earth to the south, to separate the tower from the vale. But her tale is another story. The ghost awaits your next question. How many masters have you had? We do not remember all of the masters. Much has been forgotten. There was Lord Monkton first, though. We remember him. It was he who trapped us and who eventually died. We do not mourn his passing. We still remembered what hate was then. Then, after he went, the tower grew dark and desolate. Nobody came for years. And then Mistress Alexandra came and unlocked the tower and moved in. She was the first dead person we had met, and she helped us come to terms with our death. The ghost sees you frown and explains. Alexandra was a vampire such as Tovis. It was she who sired Tovis's patron. We forget who he was. This, of course, was centuries before Tovis was even born, and he is over 200 years old. Alexandra left, and we do not know where she went. Her vampiric child stayed behind. Those were dark years, and we forgot most of them willingly. We do remember, though, Tovis's first visit to the tower. But the story of our current master is one for another time. What do you know of Tovis? Tovis is our master at the minute. You should speak to him about the present. We do not know much about that. But of the past we know lots. Some of which we have been told not to share, and we won't. But we were told to answer any questions you may have, and we will do that. Tovis first came to the tower ages ago with his friend Pandora. They stayed here at the tower, and he eventually became as he is now. We do not know how exactly, and the master is loath to say. As for Pandora, we do not know what happened to her either, but we do know she has a coffin to the north. We do not go there, though. The place scares us even now. Tovis slew the vampire which sired him, although again we do not know why. Much is lost to time. Since then he has spent his years here alone. And that is all that you can know right now. That's all for now. Thank you. Fascinating and very interesting. Tovis awaits us, but sadly this is going to have to be the end of this episode. It's gone on long enough. We've learned much here. There's a lot to go over. But we'll speak with Tovis to learn more in the next episode. Till then, I'm Chester44, that is Fox, Shriek, Bonnie, and Draco. This has been a Blades of Avernum Let's Play, and I shall see you all next time.